Chairman McGovern, Ranking Member Cole, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today on behalf of the Committee on Oversight and Reform. I am here today to testify in strong support of H.R. 5314, the Protecting Our Democracy Act. This bill is a sweeping package of reforms, many of which have been supported by both Democrats and Republicans in the past, that will restore the government system of checks and balances and strengthen accountability and transparency. The bill would take bold actions to prevent misuse of federal funds, strengthen protections for inspectors general and federal whistleblowers, prevent foreign interference in elections, and ensure that no person, no president is above the law. The Committee on Oversight and Reform has jurisdiction over multiple titles in this landmark legislation. One of those provisions, Title VII, is based on the Inspector General Independence Act, which I introduced last year with Majority Leader Steny Hoyer and several other members of the Oversight Committee. This title would strengthen the independence of inspectors general by protecting them from being fired for doing their jobs. Under this title, an IG could not be removed for a documented cause they could only be removed for cause and based on a defined list of nonpartisan reasons such as malfeasance, knowing violation of the law, or gross mismanagement. This reform also passed the House in June as part of a larger package of IG reforms. This title would bolster IG independence by requiring notification to Congress before an IG is placed on non-duty status. This bipartisan reform has passed the House several times in the Inspector General Protection Act, a bipartisan bill introduced by Representative Ted Lieu and Jody Heiss, ranking member of the House Oversight Government Operations Subcommittee. Title VIII is based on the bipartisan Whistleblower Protection Improvement Act, which I introduced in May and which would strengthen protections for federal whistleblowers. This title would prohibit agencies from launching retaliatory investigations against employees who blow the whistle and would limit the public disclosure of a whistleblower's identity. It makes clear that no federal employee, including the President or Vice President of the United States, may interfere or retaliate against a whistleblower for sharing important information with Congress. Title VIII would also provide federal whistleblowers with faster legal recourse for retaliation claims and would allow whistleblowers to have their claims tried before a jury in federal district court. The Oversight Committee also has jurisdiction over Title IX, which is based on Representative Katie Porter's Accountability for Acting Officials Act. This title would clarify and strengthen requirements on who can serve as an acting official when a Senate-confirmed position is vacant. The Federal Vacancy Reform Act of 1998 has many provisions that are unclear, creating loopholes that are ripe for abuse. Title IX would shorten the amount of time that top officials can serve in an acting capacity to 120 days, down from the current 210 days, while providing additional time when the Senate is considering a nomination. In addition, the bill would limit who can serve as an acting official. It would require that a, quote, first assistant, which generally refers to the deputy at an agency or office, was in their position prior to the vacancy in order to serve as an acting official. The bill would also require acting officials to testify regularly before Congress, require faster reporting to Congress when a vacancy arises, and close loopholes that allow the president to appoint acting officials without any experience in the agencies they lead. Title X would strengthen the Hatch Act, which is intended to protect the government from political interference. Last month, the Independent Office of Special Counsel issued a report that found that at least 13 senior officials in the last administration violated the Hatch Act when they used their official positions to bolster a re-election campaign of the former president. OSC found that these senior officials, including top White House aides such as Mark Meadows and Jared Kushner, and cabinet members such as Mike Pompeo, engaged in a pattern of terrible violations of this crucial law. OSC found that when confronted with these violations, the Trump administration defended them and failed to even hold a single person accountable. This title, which is based on the Hatch Act, Accountability Act, would strengthen enforcement and penalties for political appointees who violate the Hatch Act. Title 11 would promote efficient presidential transitions. After the 2020 presidential election, the head of the General Services Administration refused to grant the Biden-Harris transition team access to critical services, space, and information specified in the Presidential Transition Act, and to millions of dollars in funding that Congress had appropriated for transition activities under the Act. This title promotes orderly presidential transitions by requiring that if the Administrator of General Services does not ascertain a winner in a presidential election within 5 days of the election, then each eligible presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate shall be treated as a winner until a winner is confirmed. This is important for national security, that all candidates have access to national security information during transition periods. I look forward to answering your questions. This comprehensive legislation also includes many other important provisions in the jurisdiction of other committees, including some very important provisions Chairman Nadler will address along with the ranking member, such as restoring our systems of checks and balances by strengthening Congress's ability to enforce subpoenas. I yield back the balance of my time, and I thank the committee for the opportunity to speak before you today. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Thank you for your testimony.